welcome back to the CRT channel. We got the SFI approved case and bell housing in the big block. Bell housing out of the CUDA. I got it on the bench. I'm going to take the tail housing and the case off, and I'm going to start packing some of the parts that go inside the case. What I'm going to test today is the Sprag, the servos, the lever, the linkage seal, the neutral switch, the cooling lines, the pressure fittings, everything that bolts to basically the outside of the case. Maybe the rear roller support, and then on the next video we will we'll also probably test fit a valve body, which I already did before, but we'll go ahead and do that. And then part 2 of this, I will go ahead and do a complete assembly of this transmission, and we'll throw it on a dyno. I wanted to get a closer look for you guys inside this, and I want you to pay attention to the machine work. I gotta admit, this is it's a good looking case. I mean, we're gonna test fit everything, and that's gonna be the true telltale, but it's looking good. I really like how this case is. I'll pull a pan off so you can take a look at the bottom of it real quick. Alright, the first thing I'm going to put in, is probably the most critical as far as how it fits, is the Sprag. This is one of my 16 roller drag Sprags. You can get it also with a new inner race. If you ever notice on all 727 Sprags, they have this groove all the way around it. On stock Sprags and on the aftermarket Sprags. And there's a purpose for that groove. If you look in the case, the when you take out a stock Sprag, you'll see that the teeth left groove marks into the case. When you take out a Sprag out of a used Sprag out of a used transmission case, you notice that the teeth on the outside of the Sprag, 224 of them, leaves marks in where it was sitting and pressed in the case. And as you see, this one has no grooves. So as this Sprag is drawn into the case, it's going to make chips. It's going to knurl it, and the little curls and the little metal chips are intended to get caught in this groove. It's a receiver groove and stay in there. If that groove is not there, the chips have nowhere to go. So if you ever notice too, when you take out an original Sprag out of an original Chrysler case that's never been out and the case is upside down and you bang the Sprag out, you'll notice that there's these aluminum chips all over the place. Those are the chips that you would see in the groove here, okay? So I'm actually going to press this in and then check out the fitment, and then I'm going to take it out just to show you that right now this case has no grooves, and then it's going to have grooves. It's going to be more pronounced, more towards the top, because I noticed the way this is, it sinks in past the groove there without any effort, And I remember some of the Mopar Performance big black cases that came out years ago. This would start digging into the case pretty high up, but this goes down a little bit. And I think what they did is when they originally had this case, they made the outside of the Sprag surface. Kids are out there making noise. Try to make a video. I believe the Sprag that they used was cone shaped. It had a bevel on it, so the further it went down, the tighter it would go in. And I told them that the design will not work. You cannot do that, that it has to have teeth. So this is going to be the very first Sprag that goes into one of these cases. I'm going to go ahead and put it in, and we'll see how it goes. There's one thing I also want to bring to your attention. I'm going to attempt to draw this in with the bolts as I do on all of them. I know from the factory, Chrysler pressed these in. They had a big old tool. And now that the bell housing, in this case, you know, these cases will not have no bell housing attached. It's gonna be pretty easy to press these in. But I have to have a fixture, which I don't have yet, to press these into the case, and then have clearance for the bolts, or have some kind of alignment tool to go down so it reaches the 4 holes in here, reach the 4 holes in there. But since I'm going to be drawing in with the bolts, it's very important that you use anti-seize on the thread of the bolts, and never use an impact or an electric air gun or an electric ratchet, or just use a hand ratchet to draw the Sprag in. I'm guilty myself of using a small impact to draw them in, to sneak them in quicker, and the only thing you end up doing is knurling and taking out these bolts. I know from experience, from years and years ago, so I never do it that way. I always use a little anti-seize on the threads, and I draw it in by hand. It went in nice, but I did have to go to the press. So what I did is I used the alignment bolts, or the bolts that hold it in, to align the Sprag into the case to the point where the teeth of the Sprag were starting to dig into the case. And then I went from a shorter, started off with a shorter ratchet, and I went to a longer one, but I was afraid I was going to overpower the bolts and possibly stretch them or break them. And that's why I put the anti-seize on here, so it doesn't seize up the threads. So I took the bolts out, and I actually used the part of this tool. This tool is one of my dad's, and I can remember being a young boy playing with this like when I was 10 years old. I've had that long, so it was kind of cool that I got to use Pop's tool to press this in. So I went back to the press, and I pressed it in. I feel better about having that going into the case than trying to rely strictly on the bolts. It's been a while since I put in a Sprag in a new case. The last time I did it was, I don't know, probably 20 years ago, when Mopar Performance came out with the big black Chrysler cases. And so it's been a long time. I wasn't sure what I was going to expect. So the great thing is, with the bell housing gone, I don't have a very large press, and it fit in there just fine. I had to use something, I want something a little bit bigger than this. It definitely, it definitely covered the area, but it leaned more towards the inside, and I would want it to come out more towards the outside. So I'm gonna get something to have these pressed in a little bit better. I may or I may not offer the Sprags Preston as a service. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that just because it's just me. So I don't know if I'll do that, but it was relatively painless. It fit in nice, and so I'm going to, I can see in the hole too. It's going to be hard because when I focus this camera inward, I can see in that hole where the set screw goes, there's some curly aluminum in there. But I want to take this back out and I want to look at the grooves that it put in the case. Going in the second time, I probably shouldn't have to go to the press because the receiving grooves that lock this outer cam into the case should be very distinctive. So I'm going to flip this upside down, take the Sprag out, and we'll take a look at it. There's a little bit of the curling I see of the aluminum, but a lot of it came out as I was taking the Sprag out. You see it all down here on the bench. Those usually get stuck in here, and it was until I start coming out where this was past the case. It was past the case, and then it just came on the bench. So we'll get that off to the side. You can see it made a nice receiver groove all the way around. The whole Sprag. I'm very happy about that. It's got a nice groove all the way around. So I'm gonna get all the I'm gonna get all the metal out of here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall the Sprag. But it looks awesome. Nice receiver grooves from the Sprag, which acts as a grooving tool, and the chips get caught in this receiver groove. So now you know why those grooves are there. Usually the engineers always get a bad rap for designing things wrong, but I really like how that groove is in there, and it's there for a reason. A lot of people overlook that. You don't realize what it's there for, but when you pulled enough Sprags out in your life, and every time you pull it out, that groove's filled with aluminum chips, it's easy to figure out why they did that. Got the Sprag to go in just by using the bolts and drawing it in from the behind with a hand ratchet. I did not have to go back to the press a second time. It went right back in the same splines that it made in the case. This passed. I'm very happy with it. Everything looks great. We're going to go on to the rear support, then the servos. I have the rear support in. I didn't put the bearing in yet. The tail housing gasket with the bolts are all good. The rear cooling line, the front cooling line, the band adjustment nut for a 727. If you have a Pro Flight, you're going to mill this little section here, drill a hole for the 904 drum. The tap for this will be removed, and you're going to put in a key handle to be able to adjust the pressure regulator. I'll show you how that's done before the end of the video. And there's two taps here. Or one thing I wanted to show you too. This may look odd to you 727 guys. This is where the 46, 47, 48 plug would come through. And this case is based off that. Same with these two bosses up here. That's for the 05 and later kickdown motor for 48s. this design is based off a 48 case. So some of the things without retooling every single thing, are just going to be there, but they have no effect on how the 727 case is going to work for you. I have all the fittings in here. This is a low reverse test port. This is the accumulator test port for if you run an automatic shift. If you don't run an automatic shift, that's going to do nothing. These three ports, this one, and this one, were only there so they could machine a passage. So like this one goes from here down, and this one goes from here to give this a breather. This will be third gear shift, third gear, which we never had before. They added that. This is always second gear. And something I realized when I was putting this together, these two test ports are used for a 48 to see the lockup clutch turn on and off. So what you'll do is you'll have oil on one side. I don't know what side's the off side or what side's the on side. I didn't track it down yet, but if you put a gauge onto either one of these, it will tell you when the lockup is off by the pressure will be 0. However, in a non-lockup position, or a non-lockup torque converter, in a non-lockup torque converter, these two bosses can be used for a first and second stage dump system. You can hook up converter dump valves to this and increase the stall. So that is going to be awesome. I also put the linkage seal in just to make sure that was good to go. So what we're going to do now is, I got a valve body, but before I put those in, we're going to put the servos in. I got my boxes all full of fingerprints. I usually normally don't do that. Just a little information on this front servo that we offer. It's a dual spring servo and a dual ring servo. And it's my opinion that it's the best servo out there on the market. There is no other servo that even comes close. And I'm going to go over those reasons while I put this in. I'm also going to lube up the bore for accumulator. We're going to test the accumulator, billet accumulator, and then the low reverse servo at the same time. So this basically is based off the 1962 to 1970 Chrysler servo, the factory servo, which was a 2-spring inner and outer with a small with a cover in the servo. These are now dual ring on the top and the bottom. They have an O-ring in the cover where the pin goes, and normally we don't have it on this one, but usually we must have run out. I don't know why the stock one's on here. It has a locking cover, so it's total seal. So you have third gear oil between here and here. This is all third gear oil. This here is second gear oil. So a lot of times the factory ones will leak through here, then burn up third. And not so much around here, but just in case, we made sure that it had a good ring on there, total seal ring. So in my opinion, these are better than the 71 and up. And they are way better than the red one that is out there being sold. Because the red one is And if you have an overlap issue and you don't have a dual spring, this will correct that issue. If you use that red servo that's out there with the sleeve that's pressed into the case, please do not use that. It's going to cause you an overlap issue. And then the valve body always gets the blame for that. Now, the valve body ain't right, and when it's the servo. So we're going to put this one in, see how it fits. We're going to do the low reverse, see how it fits, and then put a valve body in here. And this is our dual ring billet accumulator. And then our low reverse billet servo, one piece. The one thing that's kind of different about this case is that the pan rail on a factory case, the pan rail and the oil pan, the pan rail mating surface and the valve body mating surface is one swipe with the machine. It's one level. This is two. So it's not that the valve body is sunk into the case a little bit, even though it looks like it. This outer pan gasket rail has been moved down for strengthening to give you a little bit more threads in there. But the reason why I wanted to put a valve body in here, because we got a little widget of our own that we incorporated into this transmission case. And that is the pressure adjustment. What you'll do if this is in the car and you do a pressure test, you just take out this plug, put in your Allen wrench, one last fit I want to talk to you guys about, and I kind of knew it, but I wasn't sure until I actually went and did it. As you know, this is a Chrysler, factory Chrysler neutral switch. See the issue here? This hole is for 48. However, I do have these adapters that allow you to put that in the case like so, and then you would take the original Chrysler seal off of the neutral switch and add the supplied O-ring and then put that in there. So that's how we're going to get around that, because if not, they're going to have to they're going to change the machining process and the tooling. And this adapter is really not that much, so I have a fix for that. It's not a problem. I'm not gonna have them change that. It has no effect on how the neutral switch works. This piece, that's the adapter piece, is actually made by Sonics. So you got two options. You can run a factory neutral switch, and you can also run the early one wire, single stud neutral switch, or if you have your neutral switch in the shifter and you don't want that neutral switch, we at CRT offer a block-off plug. And you would simply, because this is the same size as the neutral switch threads, you would just take the O-ring that comes with the adapter, and I got those on the website already, and you would screw that in like that, and you would have, you don't have to worry about a neutral switch. One thing I did notice too, this is to be the last point I stop on, or I work on. Normally we put the vents towards the rear of the case, and because this is a 48 case made to fit 727, I mean, it is a 727 case, but it's based off of 48. Normally the 727 case would only come to here, and then we would put the vents right here. I haven't thought about it much, but I'm thinking maybe if we just put that in the tail housing. I'm also going to talk to them about making an aftermarket tail housing. They're not in town right now, but I get so many calls of just regular people breaking tail housings all the time, and you put another one on and they break. So I have some ideas how they can make a reinforcement tail housing. So there's a possibility we're gonna have a tail housing. I have to discuss that with them too. So don't quote me on that. And again, I beg you guys, please don't call me and ask me when the cases are done. Put flashing banner right here. The cases will be ready for consumers to purchase it when you see it on this YouTube channel. Okay? They're already listed on my website, but they're out of stock. Subscribe to this channel. If you want to be the first one to know when it's ready to go, and you want to be the first one in line to get a case, subscribe to this channel, okay? It's going to be a little bit. I've been here all day on a Saturday. I didn't go to the lake again 2 weeks in a row now, so I can work on this project and get it done, because during the week I am swamped with other work. So I'm doing this on Saturdays. So be patient. The everything is rolling. Everything is coming into play. It's going to take a little bit. But it's coming. So that being said, we didn't make it to the dyno. I knew this morning I wasn't. I'm going to try to get everything here for possibly next week. I don't know what I have planned for next week, but possibly next week, if not early, like Monday, Tuesday, in the middle of the week, we'll have the transmission on the dyno, and we'll show you. I'll even show you how the dump system works, and with the gauges up on there. It's going to be awesome. And we'll show you how the pressure goes up and down, and test all the test ports and everything. And I mean, right now, so far, that everything I put in there is A-okay. The Sprag was the one thing I was really concerned about, and it's beautiful. So until next time, don't call me and ask me when the cases are going to be done. Till next time, thank you for watching, and more power to you.
Call us, child, we'll call you.